Hi, Tina. I just picked this because I just picked a comment. Let's just put it that way. As for the policies taking time to take effect, yes, I would agree with that to a certain point, except when it comes to executive orders. When it comes to immigration, if you put in an executive order, like Trump did with the border, this crisis is probably cut real quick. Real quick. But we're going to go on to the Trump trial now because a couple of things have come out. Now, the news media, because they love to sensationalize everything, is only focusing on Stormy Daniels taking the stand and her graphic description of what happened. Technically now, an affair is not a crime. So, what Stormy Daniels says and what Trump says is a he said, she said thing. That's basically what it is. Especially since Stormy Daniels owes Trump $300,000 for a defamation suit. So, there you go. But, this guy, Jeff McConney, who was the former Trump Organization controller, he was the one who controlled the money, testified he was told Trump was reimbursing his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, $130,000, but he didn't know exactly what the repayment was for. McConney said neither his immediate supervisor, then Chief Financial Officer Alan Weissenberg, nor Trump told him what the payments are for. This trial just took a turn the other way. If the guy who handles the money didn't know what it was for, and Trump didn't tell him what it was for, your conspiracy and your election theory is out the window. Because he never told anybody to pay the money. It was Cohen the whole time. The guy who got locked up for all this crap. Okay, so that pretty much killed the prosecution's case. This whole Stormy Daniels thing on the stand is just a fucking dog and pony show. The other thing he talked about was the taxes. Trump's tax cuts went from 35 to 21%, and lowered the income tax rates through 2025. Okay, which is basically the rich. In fact, this budget would cut taxes for the middle class and working families, he said, starting in 2025. Biden says he's not going to raise the taxes of the middle class. He's going to let the Trump things expire, and the middle class isn't going to suffer the consequences of those tax cuts being expired. However, the Tax Foundation says that Americans will be hit by across-the-board income tax hikes if Donald Trump's tax cuts are allowed to lapse. Okay? If the Trump tax cuts are allowed to expire, the Tax Foundation found a single person making $30,000 per year would pay $253 more in taxes in 2026, while one making $75,000 a year will be billed more than $1,700 more than they paid in 2025. So yes, while they will take a year or two to take effect, the taxes are going up for us. You can sit here and say, I'm going to tax the rich. They're not taxing the rich. They are rich. They're not going to tax themselves. It's not going to happen, okay? Even if they do a slight increase, it's not going to affect the rich bitches in fucking Congress. It's not. They're not going to tax themselves. They're not going to do it. It also says a married couple with 2 children, now you're going to have 4 at the time, making $165,000 annually would pay $2,450 more than the previous year, while a family with 3 kids pulling in $200,000 a year would shell out almost $7,500 more a year. The top 1% of earners had their average federal income tax lowered from 26 to 25 under the law. Democrats have noted that because of that, cohort earns more than lower income people. It doesn't affect the poor. It doesn't. But other groups also saw cuts, with the next highest 4% of earners seeing rates drop from 19 to 17, and those between the 10 and 5% benchmarks had their rates dip from 14 to 13. Poorer people also had their taxes reduced, with the bottom 50% of filers having their rate lowered from 4 to 3.4. And a quarter of Americans comprising the income group spanning the top 50% and 75% of earners had their taxes reduced from 8.1 to 6.9. So, in bottom line, if the Trump tax cuts expire in 2026, when you file your taxes, that's when it's going to hit you in the pocket. There was also a chart I saw with what the standard deduction will be. The standard deduction will go back to what it was, which I think was $16,000. It's $27,000 now, so that's not going to help at all. It's, you know, it's not going to help the middle class. The government is not there to help the middle class. Forget it. We're fucked. And him saying that he's going to raise the taxes for the rich and keep the middle class, make it lower for the middle class, it doesn't work that way. Especially if he lets the tax things expire. But that's what's going on with everything. The Stormy Daniels stuff on the stand, I'm not even paying attention to, just for the simple fact, an affair is not a crime. She can sit there and tell you all the intimate details, but the news isn't telling you about this guy who actually handed out the money, said he didn't hear it from Trump. The case is dead. Okay? The case against him with the documents is starting to fall apart if you do your research. And the case down in Georgia was already screwed with this woman hiring her lover or boyfriend or whatever. That whole thing in Georgia is becoming a complete tear-down mess to begin as well. Let's face it. These are the two that are going to fight it out in November, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens. You all have a good day, and booyah!